Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Warning here, folks, for all of you anti-Trumpists out there. If you think that all of this going on right now is going to grease the skids for Ted Cruz, you need to be cautioned. That may not be what's going on here. I'm sure the Cruz people are aware of this, so they're not going to get tricked. They're not going to get outmaneuvered like Trump has been. Anyway, greetings. Great to have you here, the EIB Network, Rush Limbaugh, and a brand new week of broadcast excellence. Great to have you with us, as always. Telephone numbers 800-282-2882, and the email address lrushmo@eibnet.com. Before we get started with the election coverage and everything else that's going to make up the content portion of the program today, an update on the Leukemia Lymphoma Society Radiothon that we did on Friday. I don't have the final numbers in yet. I think they're still being tallied, but it was another record amount donated. And, folks, it is phenomenal. Let me put this in perspective for you. The final number is going to come somewhere north of $3 million. In our 26th year of doing this, that amount of money generated essentially in a 3-hour radio program. But it wasn't 3 hours because we didn't go wall-to-wall content on the radiothon. I bet you if I went and tabulated it, we probably spent 45 minutes total because we did the rest of the program as well. And we, of course, had our obscene profit timeouts and local news breaks. It's even more phenomenal when you look at we had more donors this year than the previous year. We always make a note of that. But per capita donations were up. And as I said going into it on Friday, I'm always anxious about this because we've done this for so many years. And every year, you in this audience triumph. You outdo yourselves from the previous year. And there is so much appreciation for it that it's impossible to explain or properly thank you. But let me just try again because it's overwhelming, and all of us here are truly humbled by it. Now, I remember my first book came out, and it was going gangbusters, and it shocked everybody because nobody knew who I was. Well, they were starting to. It was 1992. And the publisher had arranged a book party at 21. And this is back in the days when the New York establishment, the elites, showed up at events I was going to be because they weren't yet aware of who I was. They were curious. Who is this guy? Who is this guy that's never written a book before that outselling some of our dream authors in their whole careers? So they come and they show up and they ask me how I'm doing and what I think of it and so forth. There's one guy from Time Magazine or Time Life, maybe not particularly a magazine, came up to me, and it was nice, but it was clear he thought he was talking down to someone. He was looking down his nose. He thought I was a pretender to the literary world, and he said, "So how does this make you feel?" And I said, "Humbled." He looked at me with this crazy expression on his face. "Humbled? You have a book that's selling millions of copies and you're humbled?" I said, "Yeah." "What do you mean humbled?" Well, he had no idea. I said, I'm humbled that I write a book and so many people would go out and buy it and read it." "Humbled? You should be exultant. You should be strutting around here like you own the room, and you're humbled?" I said, "Yes, I'm humbled." And he didn't get it. And that should have been my first indication of the kind of people that make up that elite world in establishment circles. The idea of humility in a situation like that totally escaped the guy. He was a nice guy, from what I'm told. I mean, he was not mean. He was not rude. He just different set of values. Humility to him was not a virtue, the weakness. And Nora Ephron asked me the same thing once at a book party in New York. Well, it wasn't a book party. It was a dinner party where I was the circus act and didn't know it at the time. Yeah, I was the new. Who is this? It's like they were able to invite an exotic animal from the zoo to come to dinner. Oh, I can't wait to tell the stories of some of this stuff when some of these people pass away. You wouldn't believe the stories they have. One dinner party hosted by, well, I'll just give you an example. There were about 30 people there, and me and one other circus act. I had a handler. And the 28 people who were the 28 people who were the normal attendees of these kind of things kept telling stories of how they'd all slept with each other. And I'm sitting here listening, and they're laughing and yucking it up, and they're getting detailed and specific with and they're married, and they're talking about other. And I'm thinking after a while, this is a put on. They are seeing what they hope I'll go nuts, walk out of here in anger or whatever, because I'm a conservative animal from the zoo here. So they were just really late, and they were talking about the drug use that they've done. It was clear that they were trying to get a rise out of me. I didn't believe 90% of it, because at one point, one of the esteemed guests, a former member of the Nixon administration, finally called a halt to us. And I'm getting very nervous with this. I think we should stop. And my handler, who they seated next to me, I jabbed him in the elbow. I said, I told you this whole thing, they're putting us on here. Well, yeah, I mean, I couldn't be expected to show up alone. They gave me a handler, somebody who was also conservative, but that they knew. And like a lion tamer, you don't just invite the lion, you invite the tamer too. Anyway, but I'm humbled by what you all do here every year on our Curathon. I really, really am. And I'm so grateful for it, and I'm so honored to be a part of it, and so are all the people with leukemia and lymphomas. So thank you once again from the bottom of our hearts. Now let's dig in. Let me tell you what happened to me on Saturday. On Saturday, I was supposed to play golf, and I just said, you know what, I'm going to sleep in. I was zapped. I was tired, so I decided to sleep in. Saturday was kind of like Christmas because I was expecting a big FedEx of cigars. And when they come on Saturday, I have FedEx hold them rather than deliver them, because sometimes nobody's home, don't trust the delivery on Saturday, don't want the stuff staying over the weekend somewhere because it's tobacco products. So I arranged for it to be picked up at a local FedEx office. Now, on Saturday, FedEx generally arrives around noon, but I wasn't expecting FedEx because I was going to go get or have picked up what I was expecting. And 11 o'clock, the gate buzzer rings. I look out there, and it's FedEx. Oh, no, what's this? And it was one box. So we got the box in. I looked at the box. It was from Dorchester, Massachusetts. I did not recognize the name of the sender. I opened the box, and inside were 2 copies of the Sunday editorial section of the Boston Globe, dated 1 year from now. It was obviously fake news. And I originally, you know what I thought at first? I thought somebody has sent me this, that it's a gag, somebody's trying to make money, they're producing these fake news things to make it look like they're real, and I got an advance copy. Whoever did this is hoping I will talk about it on Monday and rave about it and sell them, and I set them aside as junk. And if for some reason, half hour, 45 minutes later, I said, well, there's something about that. I don't know what it was. Maybe go back and look at these 2 copies of this single section of the Boston Globe. I looked at it and I said, whoa, this is really from the Globe. So I went and got the box, and I looked at the name of the sender. I did not know the name. I looked at the address. It came from Massachusetts. So I started reading it, and inside were legit news stories, current news stories. And there was a column there by Jeff Jacoby, and the front page, which is what everybody has seen now, the fake news, what it would be like with Trump as president 1 year from now. Deportations begin, economy in tailspin, wall construction halted because of lack of funds or what have you. And then the second page was the full-page editorial from the Globe, anti-Trump. And this is the second time the Globe was demanding that the GOP stop Trump. They did it during the New Hampshire, Massachusetts primary as well. And Trump ended up winning the Massachusetts primary in a landslide. And then I thought, you know what? I have never seen any one of these. We got all kinds of evidence. Somebody could put together a fake news detailing the current administration's failures. I have not seen anybody do a fake news front page or editorial on Democrats must stop Obama. You know, for me, it always comes back to that. What are people really ticked off about Donald Trump? When you stop and set this down and just look at this outsized rage, there's some people who've truly become discombobulated in their opposition to Trump. What is it about? And caution, this is not a pro-Trump statement. Don't anybody misunderstand. I'm looking at this and I'm trying to understand just what is it that has caused this full-fledged derangement, not just in the drive-bys, but of course, some on our side too have become totally unhinged over this. And I can go down the list of reasons for dyed-in-the-wool conservatives. Big threat. Trump is. He's not a conservative. Would undermine years and years of toil and labor in the basements of think tanks and magazines and whatever else. Can't have that. Can't have a guy like this, an outsider, get the nomination when we've had nothing to do with it. There's that. Then there's also the, oh, my God, you don't know what he's doing. This guy's dangerous. Oh, my God, the country being horrible. There's that. And then he wants to build a wall. He wants to deport all the, and people panicking over that. And yet, deportation and a wall are existing American law. They are United States statutes. There is already a statute requiring a wall to be built. And immigration law clearly defines when and how and who deportation is to take place. And so this level of anger and disgust over Trump, I mean, he threatens a lot of things. I understand. He threatens a lot of people. Some people think that he is a dire threat to the country. But then I compare any of this to Obama and what we've had to live under the last 7 years and what it's going to be if we have 7 more years of it. And I don't. Why is there no Obama derangement? And I'm talking about good there. Why is there anybody as hell-bent on stopping what the Democrat Party is doing, not is going to do, is doing? Why isn't there somebody in the Republican Party, the Republican establishment, the D.C. elites? Why is there no energy, much less derangement? Why is there no energy whatsoever to stop Obama? Why is there no energy to stop Hillary? Why is there no energy to stop the current Democrat agenda and replace it? So many things here seem out of whack to me. Again, asterisk, this is not a pro-Trump statement. I'm asking questions. You know, it all seems out of proportion to me. Now, somebody has produced an answer to the Boston Globe fake news thing. Drudge, by the way, posted it on Saturday afternoon. And Drudge had it posted all the way Saturday, well, up until, I think, sometime yesterday. So somebody on Twitter, and I'm sorry I didn't get, I printed this and it didn't print who it is, has created their own parody of the Boston Globe. Sunday, April 10th, 2016, present day, not what might happen. 74 lead story, lead headline, 74% of Americans don't recognize their country anymore, believe we're on the wrong track. Islamic terrorists rampage through Boston. Race riots, looting, cop murders in urban areas. Prolonged recession feels like depression. IRS targets political opposition. Medical bills quadruple. High taxes, bad trade deals drive industries out of U.S. President gives $150 billion to our arch enemy, Iran. Obama blames climate change for ISIS. All of that's real. It may be a fake news front page, but all of that is real. Everything, every headline here is based on actual news that's taking place. Now, I don't mind fevered passion about Trump. I don't mind fevered passion about Cruz. But I'll tell you, folks, I'm getting a little worried here that there seems to be far more anger and opposition and energy to stop both Trump and Cruz than there is and ever has been to stop Obama. I'm talking about from people on our side. We're dangerously out of proportion here. And you look at the Boston Globe fake news front page, all about the dangers of what will happen if Trump, and the stuff that they are worried about, it's all based on immigration. Everything that they headline and parody or warn us about is rooted in immigration and their opposition to it and what they think is going to happen to the economy and everything. It's obvious. But it pales. It pales in comparison to what is already happening. Now, there's something else about these delegate fights that have taken place over the weekend where Cruz has just skunked Trump. It isn't even a contest. It is fascinating to watch. And, of course, the Trump people think that games are being played and that tricks are being pulled, but that's not happening. This is just somebody who understands the system using it. You know, we could go into a little discussion if you want about insider versus outsider. And I tried to tell people these insiders are not just going to let this stuff go, folks. They're just not going to sit idly by and let you take it away from them. I got to take a break, but we'll continue here in a second. Don't go away.
He doesn't hold back. The news you need to know. Rush on the EIB Network.
Okay, well-known conservative parody site, the People's Cube, publishes this great parody of the Boston Globe. We will link to it at rushlimbaugh.com. It was predictable this was going to happen. I'm sure, the Globe's out there saying, the newspaper business in trouble, so we'll save ourselves, we'll cause a lot of PR, a lot of attention. People will be very impressed with what we're doing here. But there, you know what? Many media analysts are accusing the Globe of getting into fake news, not saying it was parody. There are a lot of people not happy with the Globe. Even though the Globe is, they're very happy with the attention that they're getting. But this parody response by the People's Cube is right on the money. And you know what it does? When you look at these two things side by side, then you should look at the Trump parody from the Boston Globe and this one. And it plays right into the angle that all of these people so bent out of whack by Trump have been silent for 7 years, while Obama has transformed the country and, in many people's estimation, sought to destroy it. Not a word, not a serious word, not a serious effort to stop it. And compare that to this deranged, unhinged energy to stop Trump. You got people here seem a lot more upset by the notion of a Trump nomination than a Hillary presidency. I know that a lot of people don't want Trump nominated, but I don't know why. I really don't know why he has people on our side more hysterical than Obama or Hillary have had them. That doesn't make sense to me. It really, really, that's why I say so much of this is personal, this opposition. Ainsley Earhart. By the way, congratulations to her for getting the gig. Did you hear about this, Brian? I know you're a big Ainsley Earhart fan. Mitzi should know. Ainsley Earhart, just kidding. Ainsley Earhart started out at Fox doing little bits for Hannity. The news updates about him of the hour. Now she is the female anchor of Fox and Friends. Anyway, they're talking here to Trump. And Ainsley Earhart says, look, over the weekend you lost the state of Colorado. And you tweeted about it. You said you were angry. You said it was unfair. Why do you think that?
The Denver area and Colorado itself, they're going absolutely crazy because they weren't given a vote. It's a crooked deal. And I see it. And honestly, I see it with Bernie, too. I've gotten millions more votes. Millions. Not just a couple. Millions of more votes than Cruz. Now they're trying to pick off those delegates one by one. That's not the way democracy is supposed to work. And, you know, they offer them trips. They offer them all sorts of things. What kind of a system is this? I'm an outsider, and I came into the system, and I'm winning the votes by millions of votes. But the system is rigged. It's crooked. When you look even at Bernie, I'm not a fan of Bernie, but every time I turn on your show, Bernie wins, Bernie wins, Bernie wins, and yet Bernie's not winning.
That's true. That's true about crazy Bernie. They have rigged it over on the Democrat side. They're using their super delegates. It's not rigged on the Republican side. This is just the establishment taking advantage. You know, what they've done, everybody, is fake everybody out here. And look, this is multi-leveled here to get an idea what's going on. The establishment has had everybody looking at Rule 40, for example. I mean, there have been all kinds of leaks in Politico. I mean, in the last series of months, we've had story after story about how supposedly the establishment is panicking and the steps that they're going to take to try to stop Trump. And we hear about maybe a third-party candidate that we've never heard of being nominated on the floor in a brokered convention. Everything but the one thing that nobody leaked, the one thing that nobody had a heads up on, was how Cruz was going to go into all of these states and arrange to get most of the delegates. We're talking second and third ballot here. On the first ballot, the delegates, for the most part, there are exceptions, are pledged to vote the way the people in their state voted. Pennsylvania, however, is different. Pennsylvania's coming up. You want to hear about Pennsylvania? Only 17 out of Philadelphia 70, or Pennsylvania 70 some odd delegates vote the way the voters in the primary go. 54, 51, 54, I don't have a number right in front of me. Over 50 delegates, Pennsylvania, are unbound. On the first ballot, if just use an example, if Trump wins Pennsylvania by 75%, he likely will only get 17 of the 60 or 70 delegates, because the only 17 are pledged and bound to whoever wins the state primary. Well, Trump has not been working any of these delegates. Why? Who knows? It could be that he didn't think he had to. It could be he didn't even know. Could be he had nobody on his staff that really knows how this works. You do, because you have been treated to in-depth explanations of how this whole delegate process works, particularly once we get second and third ballots. And even I pointed out to you that it's very possible, we won't know actually till the convention starts, very possible that a lot of delegates that have to vote Trump on the first ballot don't actually support him. And if we get the second or third ballot, then they'll abandon him and go for whoever. Or right now, Cruz is calling dibs. Now, what happened in Colorado is, I'm sorry to say, it's not a trick. What happened in Colorado is not something, it's wide out in the open. Everybody's known how Colorado runs its affairs. Everybody has known. Nobody just chose to look at it. But it's no secret that Colorado was going to have a convention and they're going to choose their delegates before the primary. It's not a secret. It's just nobody leaked it. Nobody talked about it. Nobody bragged about it. So it was left to be discovered by people who didn't know. And it turns out that people on the Trump campaign didn't know. Now, I can understand how they might feel tricked here. I can understand how they might feel bugabooed because millions of votes, theoretically, are going to happen that aren't going to count. Hey, welcome to establishment politics. We have played for you the sound bites on this program of officials, Rules Committee officials. We played the soundbite of one of these guys that, hey, what you all have to understand is the people don't select our nominee, the delegates do. We do. None of this is a mystery. This is the definition of insider versus outsider. This is a classic illustration of how an outsider has to learn the insider game to play it. Every business has It's rules and laws, bylaws, and specific ways that you have to climb the ladder of success. In addition to that, people that run the club, in this case the Republican establishment, just not going to sit idly by and let a bunch of outsiders, the peasants with pitchforks, however you want to visualize them, they're just not going to sit idly by and let these people come in and take it. It's too valuable. In most cases, this is how all of these people value themselves. This is from which they derive their self-worth, is their membership in this club. So I don't see Ted Cruz lying and cheating his way to the convention. I see a lot of hard work. I see some people who know what they have to do given where they are. They're in second place in both the vote count and the delegate count. They're serious about winning. The Cruz team is serious about winning. They have made themselves fully aware of how the process works, and they've been out working it for quite a while. They went into Louisiana where Trump scored a massive win, but they've come out of there with many more delegates than by appearances they should have. Ted Cruz had goals. He worked the problem till he got the result he wanted. What he's demonstrating, folks, he's demonstrating he knows how to work himself within this insider labyrinth. He knows how to navigate it. He knows how to work it. He knows how to turn it to his advantage. You have to look at this and say, okay, what does this tell us about Cruz if he should become president? No matter how enamored you are, and a lot of people are, no matter how enamored you are of the notion of a total outsider with no links to the establishment, no links to insider politics, nothing whatsoever. You're fascinated by that happening. Somebody coming in and just totally wrecking the castle. You're finding out that you can't do that without getting inside the castle first. Because the people inside the castle are not going to let you crumble the walls. Being an outsider, it has benefits, but it has drawbacks too. And knowing the rules inside out and outworking the competition is not cheating. If you happen to be more knowledgeable of how things work and are able to work it to your advantage, that's just hard work. That isn't cheating. I think the entire lesson, if you want to look at the Obama campaign and the Cruz campaign, organization matters from the grassroots on up. Obama has charisma. Trump has loads of charisma. They connect with their audiences. But I think what happened to Trump, and I'm just wild guessing here, I think the assumption was made at some point that our lead is so massive and that our love is so great, and we're just skunking everybody. If you go back to the early months of the prime, we're skunking every day. We're getting all this free media. We're getting all these votes. We're winning in every one of these primaries, most of them that count, losing some of the caucuses. But our poll numbers, we're getting double-digit leads over people. And it was probably assumed that that would translate to delegates and maybe even assumed it would translate to massive public and inside the party support. But of course it doesn't. People that don't want Trump to win are going to get even more worked up about it and do what they can to stop it. And they're going to use the tools that they have available. And they happen to be the tools that they wrote. It happened to be the tools that they, who run the establishment, put in place. And every business has them, folks. Every business, every career, every industry, every organization, even Planned Parenthood, there is a way you get to the top in that crowd. At every homeless shelter, there's a structure. There's a way you get to the top there. There's a way you get to the top at Harvard. There's a way you get to the top in a professional sports organization. There's a way you get to the top in politics. People who don't like certain rules may call them loopholes and may say somebody's cheating. but that's just people using the rules as they have been written. Politico has a story, Trump's Saturday delegate disaster, but it's interesting, there's no mention of Cruz in this story. That's quite telling to me, because remember, the Politico is the chosen receptacle for GOP establishment leaks. And this is a long story, Trump's Saturday delegate disaster, and there's not a single mention of Ted Cruz. Why is Trump having a delegate disaster? It's Ted Cruz. It isn't the establishment. And I'm going to remind you again, I don't know how many times, but I'll say it again. If the establishment or Cruz succeed in denying, if Trump doesn't get his 1237 before the convention, it may be over. The way this is going. Because what Cruz is sewing up is delegates on the second ballot. But my humble belief is that after and if and after the powers that be dispatch Trump, they will then next seek to dispatch Cruz. Over there, Paul Ryan's running a campaign for something, and everybody's marveling at it. Was just in Israel talking to Bibi Netanyahu. And there are people whispering, Kasich, Kasich, Kasich. So this is by no means settled. I have to take a break. Sit tight. Back and continue after this.
When they say talk radio, they really mean Rush on the EIB network.
No, I don't need to correct anything about Colorado. I said what I said, and it's right. I said everybody knew what Colorado did. They changed their procedure. They changed it in August. Everybody knew. This doesn't sneak up on anybody. What happened was the Colorado Republican Party canceled the party's presidential straw poll in August, purposely, specifically to avoid binding its delegates to a candidate who might not survive until the convention in July. So they purposely did this. Now, they probably did it because of Trump. I have no doubt that they made this switch because of Trump, but they didn't do it last night or Friday night. They did it back in August. They're also shouting at me in Louisiana. You really misstated what happened in Louisiana. Okay. We have a statement here from the chairman of the Republican Party of Louisiana. He said, I want to assure everybody Trump received the number of delegates that he earned. Nothing unfair to him is occurring. In the Louisiana presidential preference primary, Trump got 40% of the vote, and he gets about 40% of the delegates in Louisiana. Additionally, you can be confident that Senator Rubio has not awarded an excessive number of delegates. He got about 10% of the vote, 10% of the delegates, Louisiana proportional state. So all I said was that Cruz has gone in there and is attempting to work some magic delegates, second and third ballot and so. But everybody really sensitive about this. I understand it. Here's Jerry. I want to grab a phone call. Always try to do that in the first hour. Jerry's in Long Island. Great to have you on the program, sir. Hello.
Rush, how are you, buddy? I just want you to know you are the best. Out of all of them, you are the best, my brother. And this is why I listen. This is why I listen.
Thank you, Jerry. Very appreciate that.
But listen, this is important that you know this. I've been telling all my friends, and I've been listening to you since the early 90s. That's the truth. And I've been telling all of my friends, because everybody's talking politics now, but with all this that's going on. I say, you have to tune into Rush. And you are the man to listen to with all of this. You really are.
Well, what prompted this, Jerry? Because this is true every day. What prompted this?
Yeah, I know this already. I'm already adding on to the pile. I know. And all of these AM guys, I love them. I tune in, but they all have, you are the man. You led the way. And just to let you also know, I never watch O'Reilly because years back, You know, he took some daggers at you, and I don't forget it, and I do not watch your show because of that.
But Jerry, look, I appreciate it, but you can't take that stuff personally. Everybody throws daggers. That's just talk about the rules of the game. I mean, that's one of the first rules you learn is that everybody throws daggers. I think. Okay. Mr. Snerdley, the official program observer, who happened to screen Jerry's call. Jerry's obviously so nervous that he can't get to the ultimate point. By nervous, I mean in awe. And Mr. Snerdley said that his point is that the reason I am all these things is that I understand fundamentally that it's in nobody's interest to destroy the Republicans right now in this process, because the real problem we've got is the party governing the country right now. We can do all this stuff about Trump, Cruz, which ones are no good, but if that's Jerry, if that's your point, I appreciate it, because to me it is. I mean, even those of you who are just steadfastly opposed to Trump, intellectually, I understand all the reasons, but where is all this energy for opposition to things and people that are really doing great damage to the country? Why isn't it showing up? That's what concerns me.
America's Anchorman, Rush, on the EIB Network.
Let me close with this thought, which I'll expand on if you want. But if Trump is defeated in this you can say goodbye any outsider making any noise for a long, long time. People who think Trump represents the beginning of a new wave, I kind of have my doubts. I'll explain it when we get back. All right, look, it really doesn't matter whether I think Cruz is cheating or not. Some of you do, and that's as far as it goes. You don't. But I'm going to try to explain this to you because I think it's very important that everybody understand this. Now, I just said, closing out the previous hour, apparently something very provocative. My email is blowing up. Greetings and welcome back, Rush Limbaugh. EIB Network, 800-282-2882, and the email address lrushbo@eibnet.com. I'm thinking ahead down the road. I'm asking myself, what happens here if the establishment succeeds in beating Trump? And for this discussion, it doesn't matter whether they do it legitimately or quote-unquote cheat. That's not, the end of this, if Trump doesn't get the nomination after all of this, then what's next? Now, Pat Buchanan has written that he thinks it doesn't really matter because Trump has ignited a new nationalistic populist movement which will not be denied. And that if they don't get there this year, this movement now has found out how powerful it is and how many people are in it, that in certain polling senses they are a majority, and a number of people oppose immigration, want a wall, trade deal opposition. And so Buchanan says that, and by the way, he's not hoping for this, but if Trump doesn't get the nomination, that doesn't matter because this group of people, the Trumpists, the people supporting Trump, Buchanan believes are actually supporting more than Trump. They are supporting a set of ideas and principles that will survive Trump. And that a new movement has been born, that the genie's out of the bottle, that the establishment will not be able to put back in the bottle. Doug Schoen, who's a Democrat pollster and strategist, who also appears on the evil and dreaded Fox News channel, where he does analysis, usually sitting next to, I think, Monica Crowley or whoever they put him with, just to balance it out, fair and balanced, you decide. And Doug has a piece here, full buckets at Fox News. And the headline, Donald Trump saw what politicians ignored, and then he disrupted American politics. And his theme is this. In future elections, we may not have somebody as outlandish as Trump, but his legacy will surely have paved the way for leaders who may not know anything about governing, but know a lot about how people are feeling. Now, I gather from this is a headline, Trump saw what politicians ignored and then he disrupted American politics. And he quite correctly notes the genuine depth of anger that a majority of Americans feel. And he thinks, I guess along the lines with Buchanan, that a new movement has begun here. And I don't deny that. I mean, I don't deny that the people who think what they think are going to stop thinking it, and I don't doubt that there's a lot of them. But my only point is this. This is how serious it is. If the establishment succeeds, or if Ted Cruz, and those are two different entities, by the way. Ted Cruz is not the establishment right now. So you've got two entities working against Trump. You've got Cruz from the campaign angle. You've got the establishment from their own angle. If either or both succeed in stopping Trump, where does this movement go? I have no doubt they might abandon the Republican Party. But my instincts tell me that, I mean, what's the objective here? If you're a Trumpist, what's the objective? After winning, besides winning, what's the objective? It's to abolish this insider club, right? It's to abolish this establishment. It's to get rid of it once and for all. Realizing you're only going to be able to do that on the Republican side. The Democrats are not going to let anybody come in and kick them out of it. And I don't think the Republicans are either. But let's say that that's the ultimate objective, is to just get rid of this club, just to get rid of all this insider stuff, all the favoritism, all the back-scratching, all the cronyism, all the unfairness, all the greasing skids for everybody's kids, so that all they have to do is grow up and they're automatic successes, and all this is get rid of it, blow it up, and turn it back over to a merit-based. I'm here to tell you that if the establishment beats back this effort, nobody's going to come along and take it away from them again. Why are you shaking your head in there? Do you doubt my premise? Well, my only point here is, if the objective is to if the problem is perceived to be the establishment, which it is, and Trump is the vehicle for victory, overcoming the establishment, what happens if Trump doesn't win? The establishment holds on. If Trump doesn't win, no matter if the Trumpists represent one half of the voters of the Republican Party, and then if every one of them stops voting Republican, that is not going to end the Republican establishment. And furthermore, the Republican establishment won't care. That's the problem. They won't care. As long as they hold on to their fiefdom, as long as there is a Republican Party, and as long as the people who run it continue to run it, then beating back this latest insurgency, they will consider to be a victory. Not whether they win the White House or not. Their first order of business right now is to beat back the insurgency. The rabble-rousers, the peasants with the pitchforks. That's their first objective right now. And if they have to roll up their sleeves and work with Ted Cruz for a couple of months to do it, they'll do it. But then Cruz is going to be their next target. Don't doubt me. Don't shake your heads in there. Don't doubt me on this. These are people hanging on for dear life. These are people in a car that has gone over the cliff. It's sinking to the bottom of the lake. They're struggling to get the windows open and swim out of that car, and they're going to do everything they can to live. They're not going to allow Trump to push that car over the cliff with the doors and windows locked. Or Cruz, for that matter. So my only point is this. If Trump, as a candidate, ends up being defeated, and if he doesn't get to 1237, do you see him winning on a second or third ballot, given what you've seen happen this weekend? Well, some people don't. But then you've got to realize something. If everybody's out there buying delegates, don't forget, Trump has Mar-a-Lago. I mean, if you're going to wine and dine delegates, Trump's got Trump Force One. I mean, there you go, insulting delegates, think they can be bought off with, well, can I give you some names? No, folks, I'm just trying. Look, the anti-establishment movement is real. It's a lot of people, but if it doesn't succeed in making great inroads in the establishment this time around, it's going to be a long time before it happens again. The establishment's going to be well girded, well protected, and this is for keeps. That's why, I'm sorry, all of this is precisely why the focus on Hillary and Obama and the Democrats have been lost, because right now people are in a life and death struggle over their identity, their self-worth, and any number of other things. Let's go back to the audio sound bites here as we continue with what happened over the weekend. Back to Fox and Friends. Steve Doocy said to Donald Trump, these people in the Boston Globe that did this fake news story on you, this fake issue of about how rotten things are going to be 1 year from now if you're elected. They say they wanted to start a conversation. But, Donald, we've had the conversation. The Americans want our border secured, right?
I won Massachusetts with almost 50% of the vote. It just shows you the power that paper has, because they were just vehemently against. It just shows you, here's a paper that was sold for $1 a little while ago, $1, and that's what it's worth. It's sad for the paper. It used to be considered a major paper, and now it's like a supermarket throwout.
Grab soundbite 21. We have soundbite here from the editor, Kathleen Kingsbury. She was on CNN today speaking with Carol Costello, who laughs at everything. And Costello said, "Why use satire? You're a paper of record. Why? You cover the news. You don't make the news. Why risk your reputation? Why?"
We were very clear with readers. We included an editor's note, but really we were hoping that people would read our editorial, which came on the next page, which, yes, this is political satire, but it's also political commentary. It's not a joke. It's serious. We want the GOP to pause and to reflect and consider whether or not this is the direction it wants to move in for our country. We actually have endorsed John Kasich in the Republican primary this season, but we just don't see John Kasich making it to the end of this. So we're hoping that the GOP's natural leaders, including Romney and Ryan, will step up.
Why, hot damn. How about that? The Boston Globe wants to pick our nominee. And they say that's what their little edition was about. Yeah, they don't like Trump, and they don't like Cruz. They really like Kasich, but they don't see a way they can get him there. So they're really hoping the GOP will nominate a guy who's already lost to the Democrats and somebody who hasn't even tried yet, which would be Paul Ryan. It wasn't satire. It was news. We were trying to warn people of what would happen. Did the Boston Globe back in 2008 or in 2012, did they ever do a satire piece demanding the Democrat Party stop Obama? Did any newspaper do a parody front section or editorial page section on why the Democrats must stop Obama? I'm sorry, as I continue to compare Trump, Cruz, whoever might end up being nominated by the GOP, not the problem by any stretch, not compared. We've got 7 years of evidence that we are living. We are in the midst of a conceived and executed plan to transform this country politically, socially, culturally, and essentially turn it upside down. And essentially take every element responsible for this country's greatness and diminish it. If you want to boil Obama down to his essence, that's it. Take every instance, every aspect of what makes and has made America great, and ruin it. And replace it with the people Obama thinks have been the victims of all of this, whatever he thinks it is. Unfairness, bigotry, racism, sexism, homophobia, trickle-down economics, world's policeman, whatever the hell it is, but I can tell you it's practically everything. Everything that has made this country great from our founding on, every institution, every tradition, has been under assault for 7 years. It continues to be under assault. Now, the rule of law is clearly in Obama's crosshairs over this whole Hillary Clinton incident, not to mention the IRS being used as a political agent by this administration to harm the prospects of political opponents, i.e. Tea Party 501c3s. There is an all-out assault on the things that have made this country great. We are being invaded across our borders. We don't have immigration going on here. There is an invasion that's happening. And it has one purpose: to undermine the foundations of this country's greatness. Under this flawed premise that what's made America great is diversity. I'm taking it back. What will make America great is diversity. We haven't had enough diversity, you see. We've had too much bigotry and racism and prejudice and whatever, and there hasn't been enough diversity. There hasn't been enough multiculturalism. Well, that's not going to change. They are changing it. And I know that there are people oppose Obama. There have been people oppose Obama, the Democrats, the last 7 years, but I haven't seen one half the energy in trying to stop that is engaged in trying to stop Trump. And when you get to the GOP, I haven't seen any energy to stop Obama or the Democrat Party. Very little. Compared to the energy that they are using to try to stop Trump, something is out of proportion here. One more Trump before we go to the break. He was in Rochester, New York on Sunday, the campaign event, really laying into the RNC.
We've got a corrupt system. It's not right. We're supposed to be a democracy. We're supposed to be, you vote, and the vote means something. And I want to tell you, it's a corrupt deal going on in this country, and it's not good. It's not good. And it's not fair, and it's not fair to you people. They're taking your vote away. They're disenfranchising people that want to see America be great again, and politicians will never do it. They don't want to do it. They can't do it because their lobbyists and special interests are saying, we're not going to let you do it. It's no good, and we've got to change the system, and it's got to change fast.
And we got to take a break. We'll do that and be back and continue after this.
Rush reveals what's really at stake in the 2016 elections in the April issue of the Limbaugh Letter.
This is a fight between socialism and capitalism, freedom versus tyranny. We're talking about holding on and preserving the country as founded.
Get ready for battle. Subscribe now to the Limbaugh Letter at rushlimbaugh.com. You're listening to the EIB Network.
There's just as much trouble on the Democrat side, too. The Huffing and Puffington Post has a piece here, 10-point plan that the Democrats are flawlessly executing designed to lose the presidency in 2016. This is a piece detailing the 10 things that Democrats are screwing up, guaranteed to lose to the Republicans in 2016. I'll get to that in due course, but first, here's Rich in White Plains, New York. Great that you waited, sir. Hello.
Thanks for taking my call, Rush.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is a whining, sniveling, excuse-making crybaby who, by the way, says he's going to surround himself with all these experts that are going to solve all of this country's problems, but it appears that Trump and his good brain wasn't smart enough to hire anybody who knows the election process. And I guarantee you, if this process were working in Trump's favor, you know he'd be saying, well, the rules are the rules. So Trump has adopted the Limbaugh theorem. Nothing is ever his fault. He's every bit the self-absorbed narcissist Obama is, and like Obama, he has a generic slogan and the media behind him.
So you think that why do you think this has happened to Trump? Why do you think that he appears to have been so caught off guard or flat-footed in the delegate selection process that's been going on the past weekend?
There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there. Says he didn't want to win to begin with. But here's another thing, Rush. Trump says the system is corrupt. If it wasn't for the system, he wouldn't have as many delegates as he does now. If there were only 3 candidates from the beginning, more voters would have gravitated to Cruz instead of diluting the vote between all the other candidates. And no one brings that up.
Actually, you may have a point in a related way. NBC News has a story. I know, NBC News, but their headline is this: despite complaints, delegate system has given Trump a 22% bonus. And their point here is that Trump leads with 756 delegates, or 45% of all delegates awarded, yet he's won 37% of all votes, meaning Trump's delegate support is greater than his actual support from voters. As a matter of Republican Party math, Trump has been awarded a delegate bonus 22% above his raw support from voters. So their point here is that even if you apply the same thinking to Cruz, you still end up with Trump has been awarded 8% more delegates than Cruz for the same rate of voter support. And they say Trump's not factoring this in. And they list the reasons why Trump has had a delegate bonus, if you will. Some of it benefits some crossover voters in open primary states. But their point here at NBC News, I know it's NBC News, is that Trump really's got nothing to complain about because he has benefited from some of these very rules that have garnered him more delegates than the vote totals he's amassed have actually earned him. Back in a sec. Look, here's what you have to know here if you want to be able to read this NBC story and understand it. You have to understand that the Republican Party, the GOP, the RNC, whoever, they structured, and they do it every year. They change the primary process. They change a number of things about it based on what went wrong the previous year. And the previous year is 4 years ago, and they wrote rules 4 years ago to stop somebody like Ron Paul. Okay, so those rules are still in place. And they're going to change those rules. Some of those rules have to be voted on by the convention. Some of those rules can't change till the convention opens. But one of the things in play right now is that the GOP, because remember, the GOP has always thought that it was going to be in control of who wins these primaries. What do you mean, Rush? How do they know who's going to vote for? It's money, folks. They arrange for the donors. They go out, even if somebody doesn't want to run, they might implore them to run, like Jeb, and get them in, and they get this whole network going. Is there any doubt that the GOP wanted Jeb Bush? Is there any doubt whatsoever? Jeb may never have actually wanted it. I mean, I'm just based on energy levels, so forth, but it's beside the point. The party is never going to write themselves out of control of this process. So when that happens, panic sets in. So the reason that Trump ends up here with essentially a 22% bonus in delegates is because the Republican Party set it up so that the front runner gets bonuses for being the front runner, because they thought they were going to be in charge of who the front runner ended up being. They wire it or try to in a lot of ways. Their problem is they're working 4 years in advance, and they're always basing rules on what went wrong the last time. So their rules are rooted in the past and things they lost control of. So they say, okay, we don't want that happening again. They come up with a new rule. But then 4 years later, the process begins. Things they didn't anticipate happen, and they get caught short, which is where they are now. But the point is that while Trump is out blasting what happened in Colorado, some of these other states, the fact of the matter is, as NBC News is reporting, Trump basically has been awarded a delegate bonus of 22% above his raw support from voters. And that, without getting into the arcane details, it's a front-runner bonus. It's just the way the rules are written. So they're dealing with that. Now, Colorado comes along, and last August, after, I'm sure they did this because of Trump. They'll never say so. Last August, Colorado changed its procedure and decided that they weren't going to have a straw poll or a primary. And in fact, instead, we're going to choose the nominee at the party convention. They were going to choose the delegates there, and the delegates would determine, and there would still be a primary, but the results wouldn't mean anything. Now, this didn't happen 2 nights ago or a week ago. It wasn't decided recently. It was decided back in August. Now, in my humble estimation, I am sure it happened because of Trump. Way back in August, remember the panic levels. This is after we've had the first debate, and everybody's outraged over what Trump has been saying about Mexicans and immigrants and John McCain and Megyn Kelly's orifices and stuff. And everybody's just having a cow. And so these Republicans in Colorado decided to change their whole procedure to give them control over it, over their state. And Cruz knew it. Anybody could have known it. It was not done under cover of darkness. The rules were not kept in a secret black book housed in the crypt of some former great Republican who perished back in the days of the Civil War. It was right out in the open. Anybody could go read the rules. Now, it's fascinating. You know what fascinates me about this? Many things, but in this whole process of the primaries, there have been various leakages from the GOP and from the establishment about their supposed concerns. And so we've gotten all the news about Rule 40 and how that might come into play. And we've had leaks about efforts that are going to get made maybe to put this candidate in who hasn't run. They had all kinds of things offered up as distractions. And yet what happened this weekend at party conventions and delegate selection, nobody ever said a word publicly about it coming up. Nobody in the establishment ever said, essentially, don't worry, we're going to stop Trump at our party conventions. They all said, we're going to stop Trump on the Florida convention. We're going to see to it that he doesn't get 1237. Then we're going to go broker. Then we're going to do contested. Everybody talking about that while nobody had a heads up about what they were planning to do this weekend at the party convention. They didn't leak that. They didn't brag about that. They didn't give any indication whatsoever it was going to happen because they didn't want anybody knowing, because they didn't want it undermined. And as far as the Trump campaign, it apparently worked. Nobody there knew what was going on. Interestingly, the Cruz campaign was up to speed on all of it. The Cruz campaign has not closed their state offices as state primaries come and go and end. The Cruz campaign has kept them open. The Trump campaign offices, there weren't very many of them, closed. Do you know that Obama's 2008 offices in North Carolina are still open? And he's not running for anything against them. Why, Rush? Because those state offices of Obama's are used to stop and influence state politics in North Carolina. It's true of every state where things might be happening and Obama doesn't want to happen. Things about Obamacare, things about gay marriage, things about whatever he cares about. Keep some of his offices open. He's fundraising left and right for what? The party, right? Okay, so these offices are used by the party to stop Republicans at the state level from doing what they can do to undermine the Obama agenda. Trump closed his. Trump's using his own money. It's not a bottomless pit. He's making a big deal out of it. So he's got to focus his funds and his expenditures, which come out of his pocket for the most part, on the task at hand at present. But Cruz has been raising money left and right. Nobody's been talking about it, but he's been raising money left and right. Just as Crazy Bernie has. And Crazy Bernie's money, he can go back to his donors over and over again because the most they give at one time is $27. So Bernie's donors can donate 10 times before they're shut out. And he just keeps going back to them. And Hillary doesn't know what hit her. And Cruz, much the same way, can go back to his donors and keep his offices open and keep working these states where delegates are chosen. And by the way, even after every state primary, the delegates in many cases have not even been chosen, the actual people. And that's another thing that's been going on. The Cruz people have been in there trying to determine their guys end up being chosen or selected or elected as delegates at these state conventions for the second and third ballots at the convention. Trump has not been doing that. I'm sure that, well, I can only guess, but I'm sure that Trump looked at his massive lead in national polls, his massive lead in all these primaries that he's won, and has just assumed that the sheer power and force of that was going to sweep him through 1237 before we got to the convention. And that all this stuff that's happening now was not even going to be necessary because he was going to win this outright. And it's clear, and it has been clear for a while, the objective is to make sure he doesn't. And in this, the Cruz team and the GOP team are working as a united front against Trump. With Kasich over here, apparently Kasich is doing what he can to help Trump by trying to block Cruz at various spots in these primaries. So you have a situation where it appears that Cruz and the GOP are united in their efforts to stop Trump. Because if Trump doesn't get to 1237, what the GOP and Cruz are hell-bent on making happen right now is that Trump can never get to 1237. He can't get there on the first ballot with pledged, bound delegates. And then once we go to second and third ballots, he can't get there. He can't, because that's being wired right now. By wired, I mean they're getting pledges from these delegates, the Cruz camp and the GOP. Now, second ballot, if nobody gets 1237, that's where the GOP and Cruz forces will split apart, and Cruz will find out what it's like to be Trump right now. That would be on the third ballot. Because make no mistake, the Republican powers that be do not want Trump, and they don't want Cruz. They did want Jeb. They wouldn't mind Kasich. They are drooling over Paul Ryan. And they would take Romney again. So that's the immediate universe of people that they might be thinking to be their salvation. Brief timeout. We will continue while you ponder all of that and come back shortly.
He's right in so many ways. Rush on the EIB network.
Let me give you the numbers here very quickly, just to put this in perspective. This is the latest that I have been able to put together. Ted Cruz won Utah with 69% of the vote. He got all 40 delegates. This is in recent weeks here. Ted Cruz won delegates out of Louisiana that were available that had not been bound or pledged at the primary. Ted Cruz won the delegate race in North Dakota, 18 out of 25. Trump only got one delegate in North Dakota. Now, you might be, North Dakota, North Dakota, doesn't matter, you Trumpers. All these things add up now, folks. Remember, the conventional wisdom was Trump was going to sweep everything. And all of this was going to have been over either by now or by the end of April. Ted Cruz won Wisconsin, everybody remembers, got half of the vote, almost half of the vote there, and 36 of the 42 delegates. He did it by winning most of the congressional districts. The delegates in Wisconsin were apportioned by CD, congressional district. And Cruz went into Wisconsin and didn't work the popular vote, he worked districts. So he got 36, he ended up winning the popular vote by a big number. 36 out of 42 delegates. Trump gets 6. And remember, Wisconsin was the beginning of the 100-day plan, all of that in capital letters, the GOP to stop Trump. A 100-day plan. It began April 5th Wisconsin primary. Colorado. Ted Cruz won the Colorado delegate selection process. It didn't happen with the Colorado primary, and that has been known since last August. Ted Cruz won all of the delegate races in the Colorado delegate selection process. And he ends up either with delegates that are bound to Cruz or they are unbound leaning to Cruz. Some are committed, some are not, but they're leaning. It's a total of 34 delegates. And this is the event over the weekend that Trump is basically upset about, claiming that people have been disenfranchised because there's going to be a straw poll. There's going to be a Colorado primary. It isn't going to matter. And Cruz is saying this is not democracy, or Trump's saying it's not democracy, it's disenfranchisement, people's votes are being stolen. But states can do it however they want. The delegate selection process, the party controls it, not the voters. Cruz has been winning the other category as well in the race for actual delegates. He's even picked up some delegates that were supposedly bound to Trump in places like Georgia, South Carolina, Massachusetts, and Tennessee. So here are the totals. And that the Colorado win now, that gives, by the way, that's a crucial thing for Cruz. The win in Colorado gives him the 8th state in which he has a majority of delegates. That means, according to Rule 40B, he can win the nomination on a second and third ballot. Rule 40B, until they change it, nobody can be nominated unless they amass at least 50% of the delegates in 8 states. And Colorado is Cruz's 8th state of securing a majority of delegates. So the way that worked out, here are the final numbers. 758 Trump, as we stand now, as close as anybody can get to it. 758 Trump, 533 Cruz, 732 available via upcoming primaries waiting to be bound. That means they will be bound by whoever wins in the remaining primaries. There are 77 unpledged delegates out there waiting to be nabbed as a result. So basically 700 and, what would that be, 809, essentially 809 delegates that are available. Now, Trump needs 65% of those remaining, let's say 732. He needs 65% of those to get to 1237. So far, he's gotten 45%. Up to now, Trump has secured 45% of all delegates. If Trump got 50% of the remaining delegates, his total would be 1,120 delegates after June 7th. And the number needed is 1237. So then the argument would begin. Well, is 1,120, is that close enough to just call it for Trump? And the Cruz gang, oh no, there's no such thing as close. The rule says 1237, and we've never modified that rule, and we've never changed that rule. If nobody gets a 1237, it's hello, contested convention. And that would be correct. But the Trumpists are going to be working hard, and they're going to be reminding everybody of all the tricks and chicanery that's been pulled against them. So, in a sense, it's just now heating up.
Unfiltered and unstoppable. Rush on the EIB Network.
We have a caller coming up who thinks that because Ted Cruz won in Colorado, it means he's never going to be president because he's created so much anger that people won't put up with it. And I know some Cruz people are afraid of that interpretation because of the way the media is presenting what happened out there. We'll be back and continue in a sec. We are back, and we are having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have. I'm Rush Limbaugh here at the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies. Telephone number 800-282-2882. The email address lrushbaugh@eibnet.com. This hour dedicated to those of you who say you're never again going to listen to the program. I want to grab this guy, Nick. Nick's on the phone from South Haven, Mississippi. He's been holding for a while, and his call relates to something we were just talking about here. What happened in Colorado with Cruz securing all of the delegates without there having been an actual primary. Hey, Nick, great to have you on the program. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Rush. Thank you. How are you?
How am I doing? I'm always good. I'm fine. If I'm not good, nobody would listen anyway. So I'm always good.
I just wanted to share an idea with you, and that is that I don't think that Cruz won anything beyond the delegates in Colorado. He will never now become president. And the reason he won't become president is because the supporters of Donald Trump are not Republican supporters, they're Trump supporters. And they have a long time before this nomination process even started, like you said, have for 7 years been scheming over the way things are. And they view Trump as the only person who can turn things around. And now they're definitely concerned that Trump will not get the nomination.
Let me tell you something, Nick, because you're closer to something here than you may even realize, and I'm sure you realize how right you are. I heard from a number of ardent Cruz supporters last night who were very, very concerned how I was going to deal with this today, because they know that Cruz isn't cheating, but the way the media, the drive-bys, and certain conservative blogs and websites are reporting it, they are deathly afraid that people are going to be convinced that Cruz has cheated to make this happen, and therefore there's going to be so much anger. And you couple that with Trump running around with the Lion Ted, they're worried that has stuck. So you got Lion Ted, and now Ted being accused of cheating. Their point was that it could be very bad for us if people are not disabused of the notion that Cruz has cheated here. And he hasn't cheated. There hasn't been any cheating going on. And if you want to say there has been, you got to get mad at the GOP in Colorado for changing their procedure out there and then not telling anybody. But, of course, they did. It's been known since October. But nevertheless, you're talking about perceptions. And perceptions will trump reality every time.
Well, I think it goes further than that. I think it goes to the reality that people never really understood how the nomination process goes in either the Republican or Democratic parties. And for the first time, they're realizing it. And they don't like what they see. They view the parties as much corrupt as the national government is.
Well, they are the national government.
Well, that's true. I've been to China 3 times, and this more resembles what the Chinese Communist Party does in terms of electing its people.
Well, but look, this is the point. You got to be. Wait a minute. We're not the Chi-Coms. You got to be real careful. All that's going on here, it's not complicated. You have a bunch of wealthy, powerful interests who are not going to sit idly by and let a bunch of people they consider idiot outsiders come in and just take over. The Chi-Com leaders are not going to let that happen with a guy standing in front of a tank in Tiananmen Square, and the Republicans are not going to let Donald Trump do it if they can stop it. But you're right. You're right that people are seeing how this all works. It looks rigged. It looks this. No, well, call it rigged. This is just people who are in charge of something, wielding their power.
Well, I think this is the first time people have realized that they honestly don't live in a republic, and they don't necessarily see their vote as being part of the democratic process.
Well, I think what they see is that there's nothing democratic about this nomination process. You know, Trump's out there. He said, we don't have a democracy. He's right. We never have been a democracy. We've been in a republic. Now,
And
that may not be the time to go into that with Trump, but this is a clear illustration of it. He thinks democracy has been denied in Colorado. We don't have a democracy. We have a representative republic, and the powers that be, we elect people to represent us. We do not have a direct democracy. And all Colorado has done is, you know what? We're going to elect the people's representatives, but not use the people to do it. But they clearly announced it up front. They said so. Your theory is that because it's widely known now, with everything else that's happened, people are realizing that this whole primary system may not be anything like what it appears to be. It may be an entirely, for lack of a better word, rigged process so that the powers that be end up getting what they want when it's over, right?
that's part one. Part two is, as I mentioned, is that there are people who support Trump who believe that Trump is the only one that can bring the country back to the period of greatness it once had.
Are you one of those people?
I certainly am.
Okay, what happens to your movement and everybody in it, playing a little hypothetical game here? If Trump doesn't get 1237, doesn't get the nomination, what happens to, let's say, you? I mean, you're half of the electorate here. You're at least 35 or 40% of the electorate on the Republican side. What do you see? My point is, Nick, I think you guys are bigger than Trump. I think Trump is obviously the receptacle, and he has a deep connection with people. He's very charismatic, but you're going to survive long after Trump doesn't, right? If that's the case.
Well, I think what's going to happen is, again, the emphasis is upon Trump. He is the beginning of a movement. And that unless Trump goes out on his own, beyond the Republican Party, all that you're going to have is simmering resentment within the democratic process. And we are going to be much worse off than we have been under Obama. And the president who gets elected is not going to have the support of the people. Because they believe, and I believe, that we're on a track that will lead us to ultimately the decline and fall of the United States. You have the Soviet Union, you have China, you have the immigration process, and the advocacy of ISIS.
No, I get all that. What I'm asking you is, right now, Trump is the vehicle for people supporting him to get started on taking back the country. If Trump doesn't win, what happens to you all? What do you do next? You need somebody.
Unless a new leader arises, they're simply not going to be interested in what goes on. They're going to look at it as being totally lost. There will be no recovering of the country. We will be totally lost to our future. We will be a substandard, second-rate.
So wait a minute. So you're saying that the Trump, for lack of a better word, the Trump movement will die, and wait a minute, and all you'll be is a bunch of disgruntled people sitting idly by, angry at what's happening?
That won't be a death. What it will be is, when you get to a point where people do not believe there is a solution to a problem, depression sets in. Not depression in an economic sense, but in an emotional sense. They get to the point where they say to themselves, there is nothing that we can do to bring this country back to where it was. Everything is lost. The future is lost. And that resentment may well evolve into something more dangerous.
Oh, you don't want to go there. I see what you're saying. I know. You're tiptoeing up. You're talking revolution. Number 9 Beatles, 1960, whatever it was. That's what you're talking. He doesn't want to say it. And my look, I should preface the question here. We got Pat Buchanan, who's written 2 or 3 times now that this movement is alive and for real, and it survives Trump. That it is going to be growing. It is going to be demanding things. It's not going away. The people who support Trump will not just vanish if Trump doesn't win. And Doug Schoen has written a piece today, basically the same thing. That Trump has disrupted politics and shown that outsiders can make inroads, and maybe one day one of them can win, even though they don't know anything about governing, he writes. That one day they might be able to win. Well, that presumes that the Trump movement and all of the people that make it up are survive Trump if he doesn't win this. That's my only question. Because you people have been out there long before Trump came along. You've been angry at trade deals long before last July. You've been upset at NAFTA since 1992, 94, whenever it was. Trans-Pacific Partnership. Immigration goes way, way back. I mean, the people that support Trump from wherever they come have been out there long before Trump came along. Trump has mobilized them. It's the question of what becomes of them if there isn't a leader. Now, Schoen's point is that another leader will pop up, that another outsider will see, hey, you know what, if we do this differently, do that differently, like, let's not insult this person, let's not insult that person, let's, maybe we'll win the next time. My point, let me get to the establishment is scared to death that this is not going to go away. I think there's another, will Trump go away? Let me ask you this. Again, we're speaking hypothetically, and I'm not predicting anything, just anticipating. Let's say that Trump does not win the nomination, but he is aware. He knows how many millions of people are behind him. He knows how many millions of people support him. He knows how many millions of people invested their hopes and their dreams in him. What does he do? Does he go back to sitting high atop Trump Tower, building hotels and buildings and dealing with the Chicoms and the Mexicans? Or does he attempt to mobilize and grow this political movement that he now leads and heads up? And I think a lot of establishment people, a lot of Republicans think that Trump will take his marbles and go home if he doesn't win. And I think they might be misjudging things. I think if Trump's going to be hard-pressed to let go of this in the event that he doesn't win the nomination, because there's a movement there, and it's serious and it's large, and it has the potential. It's only going to grow. If the Democrats win, it's only going to grow. It may be idly sitting by, frustrated and angry, but it's only going to grow. This is too important to people. Their kids, their grandkids, people are fed up. And you don't sit idly by and just let it happen when you're not earning any more money, when you're not able to keep your job. You don't just sit idly by and let it happen. So I think there's much more going on here than maybe some in the establishment think. I think they can vanquish this by denying the Trumpists the nomination. And I think they are woefully misunderstanding, if that is indeed the case.
This election is not politics as usual, and only America's anchorman can explain it all. Don't miss one word of Rush Limbaugh's flawless election commentary with a membership to Rush 24/7. Listen or watch all 3 hours live or on demand. That's Rush 24/7 at rushlimbaugh.com. You're listening to the EIB Network.
Now let me ask you another question, folks. We're doing think pieces today. Let me ask you another question. Welcome back to the Rush Limbaugh program here on the EIB Network. How many of you, proper way to phrase this. Let's look at Colorado. Colorado last August announces a change in the way they are going to apportion their delegates. They announce, everybody's known this since last August. Well, it hasn't been reported in public, so you and me, we didn't know it, didn't see any news on it, but the party has known it. Everybody at the party has known it. And that means that every candidate should have known what Colorado was going to do. It's part of the nomination process, part of the campaign, part of the delegate selection process. So how is it that Trump isn't even there contesting against Cruz for delegates this past weekend? Did Trump not know? Did nobody in the Trump campaign know? Or when they found about this last August or whenever the Trump campaign found out of it, I'm assuming the Trump campaign knew. That's part of my hypothetical. I'm assuming they knew. So if they knew, why didn't they contest? Why didn't they send anybody out there to wine and dine and do whatever you do to get delegates in Colorado? Why did Cruz have the whole playing field to himself? Was it because the Trump campaign thought Colorado wasn't going to matter? That they were going to wipe this up long ago? Wrap this up long ago? Why not go? I'm just asking. Why not be in Louisiana and some of these other states, Tennessee recently, where Cruz operatives have been all over the place trying to secure delegates? Now, I can partially answer this. Well, Cruz got no choice, man. There's no way he gets 1237. So Cruz he's got to get going on ballot 2 right now. He has got to get those. Okay. Does the Trump team know that? And if the Trump team knows what the Cruz team is doing, why are they not contesting at the point of attack? I'm just asking. Not claiming to have the answer. I am just asking. Let me put it another way. Does it really make sense? I'm asking you, Trumpists, is it really the case that the Trump campaign didn't know what was going to happen in Colorado and then actively chose not to participate? Or did they really not know what was the procedure in Colorado and they didn't know that they should send people? How do you not know? You're running for the Republican nomination. Just asking. I'm just asking the questions out there. In relation to our last caller, Nick, the Trumpist, who said that the worst thing could happen for Cruz happened. Wins Colorado. Now, everybody is mad at him, thinking that he's cheating. And I mentioned I had some Cruz people who are worried about that. Cruz is not cheating. There was no cheating in Colorado. But the way the media is portraying it is that Trump's voters are disenfranchised. Got all these delegates chosen, but nobody voted, and all these headlines. So they're genuinely concerned that the perception of Ted as lying Ted and now cheating will stick. And there's this from Reuters, exclusive, it says here. Blocking Trump could hurt Republicans in election. It's a poll, the Reuters Ipsos poll. A third of Republican voters who support Trump could turn their backs on the party in November's election if he is denied the nomination in a contested convention, according to the Reuters poll. These results are bad news for Trump's rivals, as well as party elites opposed to Trump, suggesting that an alternative Republican nominee would have a tougher road against the Democrats. Donald Green, expert in election turnout at Columbia University. An expert in election turnout? What is there to it? There either is or isn't. What is an election turnout expert at Columbia? What does he know that we don't? Well, he knows the demographics, Rush. He knows the trends. He knows what time they show up. He knows what they had for breakfast on the day they show up. And he knows if they don't have that, they're not showing up. What is there to know? Anyway, this guy, Donald Green, says if it's a close election, this is devastating news for the Republicans to deny Trump. Okay, fine. But we know what the drive-bys want by looking at the Boston Globe. So Reuters is no different than Boston Globe. So it would seem the Democrats want the Republicans to lose. The drive-bys want Republicans to lose. In their minds, that would be nominating Trump. The plot just continues to thicken out there, folks, and we are the ones to unravel it for you. Don't go away. Now, you know, folks, I should have mentioned this. This is my bad. It's important. There was somebody at the Colorado GOP after everything went down over the weekend that tweeted the following. We did it! This is after Trump got skunked. Somebody in the Colorado GOP tweeted out, we did it. That tweet has been deleted. The twitterer claims they didn't post it. It's probable that people have it cached. We did it. We did what? It's clear why they set these rules back in August. There's no doubt what they were trying to do here. The reason they took the vote away from the people, there's no doubt in my mind, it's the party. They run the show here. Back in August, the beginnings are right at the head point here of Trump mania. And the party they're just starting to realize here. Remember what had gone on. Trump had said 4 things by then that was supposed to have doomed him. His numbers are racing to the top. Massive crowds. Panic sets in. There's no question that the party changed their procedure here to take it away from people and do the vote within the party, the delegate selection of the party. But it's their party. They can do it. There wasn't any cheating here. You might say that the people in Colorado decided not to leave it up to the voters. But Ted Cruz had nothing to do with that. I have another question for you. Since we're doing think piece questions, look at it as homework from the Limbaugh Institute. Another question. What would happen if the process in Colorado was the process in all 50 states? What happened if there were no primaries anymore? Only Republican Party officials gathering at state conventions and choosing delegates. For what candidates? Candidates will still have to announce that they're running. There would still be, candidates are going to have to present themselves to the public. So you would assume there'd be campaigns and maybe people voting, but what if every state did what Colorado did? Well, do you know that's the way it used to be? Do you know that's the way the conventions used to be? Do you know that's how they used to constitute the Senate? The Senate was picked from elites because it was assumed that the low information population would blow it, because the Senate was supposed to be our version of House of Lords. The House of Representatives was where low information common people were, and the Senate was supposed to be where the smart people slowed down and brought to a screeching halt the passions of the farmers, which we were an agrarian society. We were supposed to slow down the passions of the House. It was a brilliantly conceived plan, by the way. But senators being elected relatively new, like last 150 years, I think. Anyway, just things to ponder. Here is Sean Spicer. He is the RNC, the Republican National Committee Chief Strategist and Communications Director, PR guy, essentially. And he was on CNN this afternoon. And he was asked about what went on in Colorado. Trump calling it a rigged vote, other people calling it a rigged vote. Trump's newly hired strategist Paul Manafort calling Cruz's tactics Gestapo tactics. And so they put this question to Spicer. What did happen in Colorado? What's going on out there? What are you people in the party trying to do?
All of these states and territories submitted plans last year. Those plans were made available to every campaign starting last year. So candidates and campaigns shouldn't be surprised. It's up to them to both win a state and then go in and fight to have their slate or their delegates get elected. In Colorado, they've talked about having a convention since last year. Everyone's known that. The process by which our party's engaging in right now is something that we've been engaging in for over a century in terms of each state deciding how they're going to select their delegates.
That's true. The delegate selection process is not determined. The actual delegates, who they are, the human beings, is not determined by the primary vote. The party figures that out. In some cases, you run for election as a delegate. It's a big honor to be chosen a delegate, go to convention. It's a big deal. It's also a hassle because it's a pain in the butt sitting out there, 4,000 people at convention. But it's still, it's an honor for people who are really into this stuff. In other instances, the big wigs will call you, so we'd love for you to be a delegate. I know people have had that happen. But the party controls it is how that all can happen. And whoever wins in the primary doesn't determine who the delegates are. That's why it's entirely possible State A overwhelmingly votes for Trump in the primary, but the delegates could be 75% for Cruz. First ballot, they got to vote for Trump the way the people voted. Second ballot, do whatever they want. You can wine them, you can dine them, you can take them to the Clinton private island in Panama, whatever you want to do to try to get them on your side. Here's Laura, Littleton, Colorado. Great to have you on the program. Hi.
Hi.
Hey.
Well, I'm a disenfranchised Colorado voter who attended the non-caucus caucus.
Yeah, how was it?
It was a sham. There were a few people there, all Republican office people who wouldn't even tell you who they were going to vote for as your delegate. So you had no idea.
Wait. Whoa. They wouldn't tell you who they were going to vote for as your delegate?
Yes. We had to vote on delegates, but they would not announce who they were going to vote for as the delegate.
So you were choosing delegates who would not tell you for whom they were going to support a convention?
That's correct.
Wow. And who was in charge of that? Ted Cruz?
I have no idea.
I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I'm just folks, I'm getting giddy here at the end of the, I just made it up. I take it back. Who did do that? Who was in charge of making that decision?
It's the Republican Party of Colorado. They don't trust the voters. Last election, we voted for Santorum, which they didn't like. And the election before that, we voted for Romney, who they didn't want. You
want to hear something interesting? Folks, history. Try this. See if any of this seems familiar. Mitt Romney, the 2012 nominee, did not clinch the number of delegates he needed, which was 1,144 back in 2012. He didn't get to that number until May 29th. And that was with the establishment's vigorous assistance. The establishment was all in for Romney, and he didn't get... Santorum, people have forgotten this. Santorum was running away with this in the early stages. And there were people, what is going on? Rick Santorum? Romney didn't nail it down until May 29th. There's a Politico story about it. Romney was always seen as the nominee in waiting, a cautious but inevitable front-runner for the GOP nod, who was well-positioned. But he has always been viewed with deep skepticism by the grassroots. So the establishment grassroots divide was blamed for Romney's slow process. Meaning the establishment, they were all in for Romney from day one. But it took him till May 29th. That meant there was a divided party. It looked like it was a divided party all the way through June, practically. And the establishment blamed the grassroots for that, for not going along with who they wanted. Mittens. Quick time out. We'll be back and continue in just a second.
The most powerful name in talk radio, Rush, on the EIB network.
And it's a Rolling Stones, a combined 286 years old. That's how old they all are. Tom in Tampa, you're next. Welcome to the EIB network, sir. Hello.
Hey, Rush.
Hey.
Thanks for taking my call.
You bet, sir.
I just wanted to mention at the very beginning of your program, you talked about why are conservatives, what are they scared about with Trump? And I've been a lifelong conservative.
Wait. That's not exactly I was talking about why there's so much energy opposing Trump when there isn't any opposing Obama and the Democrats. But
okay.
Go ahead and answer your question. I just want the audience to know I was not asking. You want to answer the question, go ahead, but that's not the totality of what I was asking.
Oh, I'm sorry. I must have misunderstood.
No, but have at it. Since that's what
my perspective is that I've never understood. To me, Trump represents everything that I don't like about politics. He is the typical power-hungry politician. He doesn't really stand on principles. That would guide him. He is about. He's not concerned that the country's turning more socialist or that the government's more intrusive and that we want to decrease government. He's more concerned with who's in the throne. That he is not necessarily upset that Obama is stepping his grounds, just that he just doesn't like what Obama's doing and he wants to be in charge.
Well, you're essentially saying that Trump is not an ideologue, and I know that. I don't disagree with that at all, and I don't think Trump. He obviously somebody that thinks government should be used for good. I don't think he believes that government is in its basic existence an impediment. So you're right. You're right about that. But it's all encapsulated in the fact that Trump is not an ideologue. Therefore, he can't possibly be a conservative as conservatives define themselves. And I know that a lot of people oppose him on that basis, that he's not a conservative. And the alternative is that Cruz is. I mean, here we've got the closest thing we're ever going to have to Ronaldus Magnus, and it seems to be an automatic selection. For a lot of people, it's not, so it's very frustrating. Anyway, Tom, I appreciate the call. But the point I was asking, I know why conservatives don't like Trump. I myself was the one to explain that. My question early on was, bouncing off this Boston Globe demand that the GOP stop Trump. Where's the demand that Obama be stopped? Where's the demand that the Democrats be stopped? If I'm not mistaken, the vast majority of the direct damage that's being done to this country is not coming from Donald Trump. It's not coming from the Republicans. It is coming from the Democrats. The Republican problem is they're not doing anything to stop it, and haven't for 7 years. But I just want to see if all this energy in stopping Trump, that's wonderful. But could we see it aimed at the people really responsible for this? That's what I don't see. And it's worrisome to me.
Listen, learn, then spread the word. Rush on the EIB network.
Sadly, folks, we're out of time here, but that doesn't mean anything. We're back here tomorrow in 21 hours. We never really stop. We just have extended timeouts every day, and this is one of them. So thanks for being with us today, as always, and look forward to being right back here tomorrow. See you then.